Welcome, James, to TDC Talks. It's great to have you. Thank you for your time. James Miller is a website copywriter. He does MSPS, cybersecurity, and SaaS, software as a service. So maybe you can introduce yourself, just tell us about your experience and what you are currently doing right now.
So I primarily write website copy for like the home pages and service pages and landing pages for tech businesses, largely focused on service-based businesses, either software as a service or IT service. A lot of the cybersecurity clients and IT clients don't actually provide like a product, but they offer services to their clients. So it's a little bit different in terms of how their sales funnel works because they're selling a service as opposed to an actual product.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been freelancing full time for about a year now. I started my company last January, and then before that, I was doing a little bit of freelancing on the side for about a year before that. So it's only been about a year full time.
That's awesome. I mean, people say that when you pass the first year, it gets easier. So the first year is always the part that's a little bit, harder because you have to maintain your previous income and you're trying to balance all the things. But I feel like when you get the clients going, it's a little bit easier because the referrals and they start to speak with each other and the wheels start turning, you know what I mean? So it's awesome that you already passed that part. We in TDC we did this is our year and a half now, and we're actually in that level that we're trying just to okay, now we establish some credibility, we're doing some agency things, so it's that time of scaling now. But that's awesome to hear. So you said, do you do the actual web design or you only do the copywriting? Do you code or what's your process?
So I actually don't code. I know a little bit of HTML and CSS type stuff, but I don't do the actual website writing. I write all the copy for the website, and then I provide a wireframe with all the copy in it so that what they can do is take the copy in the wireframe, give it to either their development team if they have one, or just hire a developer and give them the wireframe and be like, hey, make it look like this, and the developer can do that. Typically, the way the process works is once we've started the project, I'll do all the market research and client research, put that together in a sort of like market research or information package, present that to the client so that they can see all the information I'm working with, and then I have a bit of a brief or outline on what information I'm going to put into the website copy and what I'm going to focus on. They approve that, so like, okay, the direction is cool, the big idea is good, right on. They approve that, then I write the website copy, put it into the wireframe, send that over. We make revisions to that, adjust that. Once that is all good to go, I give them the wireframe, and then I'll usually stick around and help out if the developer has any questions or anything like that about font sizes or, hey, this is going to, we can't fit this here or anything like that. Help with the implementation with the development.
Okay, got it. So if a client comes with a product or service, it's great that you do the research, the client research, because sometimes they feel that they come into your practice and they ask you, okay, this is what's my product looks like, but they don't have any idea how to start or how to start writing or how to sell it. So I'm curious, what do you use for research platforms? So how do you start the process of that? It's super important. So I'm into that. So what's your process when you find, okay, this is I don't know, a water bottle or something. So where do you go first?
So as much as possible, what I want to get or start with in terms of the research is customer interviews. So if they've already got a few clients, which is ideal, just because working with companies that are absolutely brand new that have 0 clients or 0 customers is a little bit different research process, because that's kind of a product development process rather than a marketing process. But so first thing I go to is their current or previous clients. If I can get like 3 or 5 interviews with their previous clients, you can build a marketing, like a really, really precise marketing profile. And with a lot of the clients I work with, especially in service-based industries, your referral business is huge, right? But a lot of companies, or especially smaller businesses, they don't have a ton of clients yet, or they might be a business that runs like low volume but high cost, right? So they have like 5 clients that all pay 30 grand a month, right? So they don't have a huge referral network. So interviewing those clients and getting their information basically helps companies scale their referrals, right? So you can basically take everything that your client would say if they were going to refer you to another client and put it in your marketing copy, so that then you can basically show your referrals to a much, much wider network than your clients can do on their own. So the client interviews or the customer interviews are a really important part. And I think that's like one of the most overlooked marketing assets is your current clients, right? And then in addition to that, or if they don't have clients that I can interview, or if for some reason we can't connect with the clients, which happens occasionally, if they have any sort of reviews, like from reCAPTCHA or Google reviews, anything like that, definitely dig through those really, really heavily to mine language, because that's about as close as you can get to the language of a referral without actually getting the client interview. If they don't have a ton of reviews on any sort of review site, my first recommendation for any company is to get themselves on those sites so that they can start collecting reviews from their customers, because that's one of the best ways to capitalize on doing good work. And then if they don't have a ton of reviews, or in addition to the reviews, so if, just as a note, I keep saying if they don't have, but if I get the interviews, I still look at the reviews, and then if they have a ton of reviews, I still move on and review the next thing. And then usually what I'll do is go to competitors and look at their reviews and find out what people are saying about their competitors. And I'm not, and really with the competitors, I'm actually looking at, I want to find out is positive reviews just as much as negative ones, right? Because you do want to find out what your competitors are doing well, because it's still possible, especially for startups and stuff like that, that you're going to be doing something much better than your competitors are already doing well, which is a huge differentiator, right? If you're the absolute best on the market, you want to know, right? So that's kind of the high level view of the process is client interviews, if I can get them, reviews from any review sites or any testimonials that they have, and then reviews of the competitors and similar products. And it all comes down to really understanding what the customer wants. It's surprising how often even very perceptive businesses and business owners will be mistaken about what the most important benefits are to their customers.
Awesome. That's solid advice. So what I see here is your sales funnel. When you do the copy, you base it around reviews, basically. So at the end, you're driving the customer, you're taking the customer by the hand and just, okay, look at other people's success stories and just look at them, and maybe you can see yourself in a few weeks like that. So I guess that's a strong point within the funnel. Do you like video reviews, written reviews, or what's your takeaway when you ask for them? So do you include videos, or do you only put written reviews?
Oh, and when I'm reviewing the reviews of a customer?
Yep.
Oh yeah, video reviews are excellent. And written reviews are obviously very good, but if there are any video reviews available, I would absolutely look at those, because when you quote from a video, that you get a much more natural language because you're quoting somebody as they speak, right? Whereas people tend to write often a little bit more unnaturally. So video reviews are fantastic. That's probably as close as you could get to a client interview without actually interviewing the client.
Okay, awesome. So what are the key components within the funnel after you have the reviews in place? I know that you might know about it, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the industry and the client. So do you highlight that within the funnel, or what's your process? What should go first and then second, and then how do you take a call customer and close a sale within a funnel?
Within my funnel for working with my clients, typically it starts by, and this is actually a really, really common marketing type funnel strategy, which is to offer something for free up front, right? Some free value. So, and especially with service-based businesses, it's really advantageous to offer a free consultation call. So what I've seen is that a lot of businesses start with the first call is sort of a little bit of a sales call, which might be appropriate depending on the buying cycle of the customer. But for what I do, I find it works a little bit better to actually just give a very short consultation. So I'm in that call, the sales language is pretty minimal. I'm actually just trying to deliver value up front, like make at least a few recommendations for what they could do right now without my help, right? And I find that usually that leads to, so that's like just starting to get into kind of the middle of the funnel, because typically at the top of the funnel you have like your content and stuff, you know. So once you've gotten on the call, you're just starting to push into that middle of the funnel. And I find that if you give just a little bit more value right there, as they've made that first contact with you, it really helps people get into the middle of the funnel, where at that point your conversion rate usually goes way up from your middle of the funnel to your bottom of the funnel, right?
Regarding platforms, do you have any experience with? So sometimes I feel it's a combination of different things. I saw in your LinkedIn bio that you say videos, pictures, copy. You have all the components of a successful funnel. So what I feel here is also the actual platform that hosts the funnel. Do you think that gets in the process in the way, or maybe if you use I don't know, ClickFunnels, Kartra, maybe Wix, Squarespace, you have, different hosting platforms. Do you think it makes a difference? Do you have any favorites? Do you see when you start working with a client, oh, maybe it's not the copy that's not working, it's actually the hosting platform, the speed, the loading speed. So what's your takeaway from all the clients you already took during this year? So what would you recommend, where to start?
So for platforms, really what I've found is that where the platform, or when the platform stops working, is usually when it starts to create inconvenience for the customer or the prospects, right? I know that a lot of people, or a lot of businesses, have had a lot of success with ClickFunnels, and I'm not opposed to ClickFunnels at all, but I do think that the overhead cost of ClickFunnels is pretty high. But ClickFunnels does a really good job of minimizing the inconvenience to the potential customer. And it kind of depends on which, or what your marketing or what your business model is. Because ClickFunnels might work really well for you if having that, or reducing that buying friction as much as possible, really increases your conversion rates. Then then that platform is going to be for you. But if you can get similar conversion rates with Wix and a capture page, the capture page is actually going to have lower overhead costs in the long term, just because the membership costs less, right? Personally, I use Wix and a capture page. Like that's what my own thing is, and I find that a lot of businesses, especially like on the cybersecurity front, use a website host and a capture page. Whereas ClickFunnels, I've seen it seems to work better for businesses that run higher volumes as opposed to low volume, high value.
Yeah.
But so far, I haven't seen any platforms that really fail, right? They're like, because obviously any platform that's not good usually will probably go out of business. But it's just a matter of identifying what's going to work better for you. I think that ClickFunnels, and this is just a hypothesis, I think ClickFunnels works really well for businesses that run really high volumes of customers because it is really easy to create a funnel that you can move through really easily. Whereas with businesses that run lower volumes of customers that pay more, higher value customers, a personal website or a customized website with a capture page can work a little bit better, just because you might have to do a little bit more work in terms of the selling, because the customer is going to be paying a lot more, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of my experience with the platforms. Like I said, though, I haven't seen any that just outright fail, unless something's going wrong with the execution.
Awesome. Regarding techniques, after you have the hosting platform, you have all the copies, reviews, all the tools that you need to start working. Do you have any techniques that you use? Maybe you use some scarcity, or you like using certain words, or how do you take the client in that process? Because I know there are different copywriters and they all have different styles. It's like musicians, that's an art that if you know how to write well, you actually have a weapon in your hands that you can use however you want. So if you have to define yourself, what are your skills in copywriting?
So I think that in terms of my copywriting skill, the strongest thing I have is being able to match the voice of the customer, which I've practiced a lot. And that's also why I rely on the customer interviews and stuff like that so much for writing the copy. And I think that for a business, if you wanted to apply that to your own, if you're writing your own copy, really a couple of easy ways or things that you can do to sort of generate copy that helps match the voice of your customer is first, find out how or what words they use to describe your product or your service, and use those words. I find in tech industries, especially like with really technical companies, you have very, very smart business owners who know a lot about the technology of the industry, and so they want to use the language of the industry. And what happens though is it creates a little bit of a disconnect because their customers or their clients aren't like IT professionals, so they're not professionals in the industry. And so when they use the specific words, of their industry, their clients literally just don't understand. And it might feel a little bit unnatural if you're a business owner who works in a really specific industry to use a word that seems a little bit too simple. But if that's the way your customers say it, you say it like your customers, because that communicates to them that you understand them, right? And also helps them understand what you're giving them. The second thing is when you look at the way that your customers talk and the way that they write, the way they communicate with you, sort of match the length of their so if they tend to speak in long form, like I'm sorry about working with customers for your podcast, but I tend to give very, very long form answers to questions, right? So if I were the client, it would be best to give information in long form answers, because people tend to consume information the same way that they produce it. So if you have customers that speak in shorter form, right? Or if your customers are, say, younger customers, 18 to 24, who use social media a lot, they're probably going to be more accustomed to writing short blocks, right? So keep your stuff, kind of match the length of your things to the way that your customers are doing their own writing and speaking, right? Again, it's just a matter of matching their demeanor and their language. And if you read sales books or anything like that, and the reason this works is if you read sales books or anything like that, almost all of them have something about matching, right? Like mirror your prospects' gestures and stuff like that. And you're really just doing that same thing in your writing when you do that, when you match their language and the length of their communications.
So you recommend to keep it simple, and you have to, as people say on the streets, you have to dumb it down so everyone understands the language. I actually was debating this morning because we're working on a funnel for one of our products at the agency. So we tried to put all the technical jargon of marketing, but then we just realized, the business owners won't get these terms. So we have to find a way that they understand how to do business in marketing. So it's super crucial what you said. And thanks because I'm not a copywriter, we have copywriters on our team, but to hear it from you was super wonderful. Thank you for that. So now that you said your techniques and all of that, I want to know, do you actually get in the process of copywriting for the ads? So, you have to drive the traffic to the sales page, and I feel that there has to be a connection at some point within the ad, the video or photo ad that you're using in social media, or maybe on your commercial, your webinar, you're driving the traffic from there to your actual sales page. So do you get involved in that process, or you actually just leave, the paid media managers to do the thing and then you get involved at the end? What's the process usually?
So for traffic type stuff, yeah, I am not, or I don't offer Facebook ads management or like Google ads management to my clients, just because it's a little bit different skill set, and I don't think I can provide as much value there. I do know people that are Facebook ads managers and Google ads managers that I refer my clients to. However, I do, and this is something that I think as a business owner, you can get the information from your copywriter if you're hiring one or if you have one on your team, which is to ask them to put together, and whenever I write website copy for a client, I always give this as part of the deliverables, which is basically I have all the research I did, right, all that customer research, and I put it together in a guide. And what that is it's just a language guide, basically. This is, and it covers everything down to details like how customers use commas and which words that they use to describe certain products and services, and all the beliefs and all that stuff, so that way they can take that guide, and if they have someone who's writing Facebook ads or Google ads for them, they can give it to them, and that way they can make Facebook ads, Google ads, their webinar landing page. The language on those pages will match what's on their homepage and their products and service pages. And they'll also be using the correct language, the highest converting language for all their stuff. And so that's how I don't directly get involved in the process of running the traffic tools, but I do give them an asset that can help them connect those tools to their sales pages and stuff like that, so that the experience and the language for the prospect and the customer is consistent across all the pages, right? And I think that's really the biggest thing. If you're working with a copywriter, or if you're a business trying to write your own copy, is to create a set of standards for how you speak, and then follow them so that the experience is always consistent from page to page to page.
Awesome. That's super insightful. To have, as a paid media manager myself, to have a guide or a research coming from a copywriter like you will be so helpful So it's a good POV from you. Regarding A/B testing, do you usually, I know ClickFunnels, for example, offers two different, a way to split two different landing pages and you see what works better, maybe this works better than the other. Do you do a similar process? Do you A/B test, and after you finish your work, you keep with the business just looking at the results to see if you can tweak anything? Or how is your process whenever you finish your end product?
From the standpoint of the copywriter, or from my perspective, when in the process, typically what I can do is, if I have a client who plans on A/B testing stuff, like if we're doing a landing page and they're going to put it in ClickFunnels and use that capability to A/B test it, I'll usually give them at least two copies. So I give them like a primary copy and a secondary copy that they can A/B test and choose the one that works best. Or sometimes depending on the length of the project. So I do go through revisions once I've sent deliverables to my clients. And so sometimes during the revision process, what we'll do is I'll send them a draft. They'll be like, okay, this draft is cool. I like it. What I'm going to do is, and then what we'll do is we'll put it live, run the test. They'll make some suggestions. I'll or they'll run the page for a while. I'll do some revisions based on their suggestions or maybe what they think. And then once those revisions are done, then they can put that up and A/B test it and choose between those two. And that way, so you get kind of a built-in A/B test as you're producing the copy. And then especially if they're launching a funnel or while they're building it during the implementation phase, sometimes we'll do A/B testing as well.
Awesome.
Just because sometimes it's easier to make design changes to the website while you've got the design team working on it, or the design team is there, before they move off to do other things, because a lot of businesses have their design teams doing a lot of things, right? Yeah. So while working on the landing page, right, you put a version of it up, and let it run for a little bit, make a test, or make some changes, run your second version. Awesome. But from the high level, the A/B testing is something that you should always do. Like it's just the hands down the best way to continuously improve your marketing performance.
So now we are jumping from the technical copywriting things, because we also have some listeners that are agency owners, creators, copywriters, and they want to know how to start, how to jump from the corporate ladder to being a freelancer, and how they can start getting clients and get traction. So what's your piece of advice regarding that? How can you find your first client? How do you put yourself out there? What medium do you recommend?
Social media is like hands down, I think, one of the best ways to put yourself out there without having to spend any money on marketing, right? And then the second way, and this is how I kind of got one of my first clients that I still work with, is through cold email, right? If you can find some companies that you want to work with and send them an email, and then even if they don't respond, follow up on that email. But moving back to the social media, just because I think cold email is fairly straightforward, but for social media, what I've been doing and what I've found has actually been really effective as a freelancer, particularly on LinkedIn. It's worked a little bit different on Facebook, but on LinkedIn particularly, what I found works really well is I searched hashtags related to the industry that my clients were in, right? So I was looking to connect with potential clients. So I searched the hashtags that were relevant to that industry, and then went and found people who were posting based on those hashtags, and then commented on all those people's posts. See who else has commented on those posts, go comment on their stuff, either articles they've written or the stuff that they've shared or their posts. And then eventually I can either send a request or I'll follow those people too. And then I can either eventually send a connection request once they've seen me comment on their stuff a little bit. Or a lot of times they'll send me a connection request after I've made a couple of comments. And so I can kind of build my network out that way, and then have a more relevant client audience for when I post my own content, right?
Awesome.
Not really to be really effective on LinkedIn. For Facebook, what I did mostly is just find groups where my potential clients hang out, because there's a ton of Facebook groups, right? And just go in there and comment on people's posts and engage with people on Facebook. It's not, neither of those methods are get rich quick things, right? It is a little bit of a process, but if you've already got a full-time job, I think you could probably get some leads and get some clients, with just 15 to 30 minutes a day, posting a couple of comments every day, a connection request, once in a while, and you'll be able to build up your audience a little bit slower, but it'll be a really extremely relevant audience, right?
Yeah, 100%. So now you have Facebook groups, LinkedIn connections, relevant connections, and cold email. And do you do any referrals? So you have a lot of referrals, or how is the process? If you have to divide so your clientele at the moment, so it will be mostly referrals, LinkedIn, or what's the strongest point?
So right now, most of my new clients have come from either LinkedIn or Facebook leads. I have gotten a few referrals from my clients, and referrals are usually very good because the lead is just like incredibly easy to close that deal. But for the most part, right now, most of the new work has come from my social media presence, and just I think that might be a little, and that's a particular situation, I think, just because I have a handful of retainer clients right now, and one of the things I've noticed, and retainer clients are really good, but what I've noticed about retainer clients is I tend to get less referrals from my retainer clients than I do from a client that I work for and they pay, the project is complete, and we kind of go our own way, just because typically if I'm already working and doing ongoing work for the client, I think just psychologically they're less likely to recommend me to somebody else, because they know that like that's going to be competing time, so like I said, retainer clients are awesome if you're a creative or a freelancer. That really helps build stability into your business. But also I think that, and it's not that your retainer clients are trying to be mean or anything. It's just that I find that I've gotten less referrals from the retainer clients while I'm working with them. If I do get a referral from a retainer client, it's typically after the retainer ends.
Okay, 100%, yeah. Tell me, how is the process when you sign up a client? Do you do client contracts? Do you try to put everything on paper? I know many people just as a freelancer, they start, doing crazy things. Just, word of mouth, we can just close the deal right now. So for someone that's starting, what's the process? How do you close a client the right way, in your opinion?
First, I think it's really important to get everything in writing. It's not wise to work on a verbal contract, just because there's no way to enforce it if something goes wrong, which hopefully it won't, but there's just no way to enforce it. So from an overall like a process, typically I'll get a lead from somewhere, right? The first step in my process is I book that initial consultation call, which, like I said, is truly a consultation. Like I try to make suggestions that they can do, look at their website, and also, but during that consultation, it's really important to make an honest assessment for myself, really, about whether or not I can truly help that client. And I think this is a mistake that I made early on in my freelancing career, because you feel like you kind of got to take all the work, right? Because you just started and you feel like if you don't take this one, you might never get another one, And I made that mistake where I took on some jobs that I really wasn't able to deliver the best results. And so during that consultation call, for me, it's really important to, like I said, make an honest assessment for myself that I can actually help the client. If I can't, I'll refer them to somebody else. I'd rather do that than accidentally or not accidentally take on a job that I'm not going to be able to do well. And also give them some value first. After that consultation call is finished, either we'll schedule another call, or they'll be like, all right, and I'll send them a referral, or maybe they decide not to work with me. That's fine. That happens. We decide to schedule another consultation call. Typically, what I'll do is hash out in that next call or get a scope of work from them before the next call. So at the end of the consultation, if the client wants to work with me, I'll get a scope of work so that what I can do is put together a rough proposal, right? An initial proposal, I call it. And I got this idea from another copywriter that I can't remember the name of right now because I heard it on podcasts and I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I apologize for not having the name. But I think one of the most important parts of the process is a lot of freelancers and even agencies will send a proposal, like they just email it so the client can look it over and then send it back yes or no, right? I think that, and I've really improved my process and my outcomes by, rather than sending a proposal, I present the proposal. So rather than emailing them the proposal, what I do is I schedule another call, an initial proposal presentation call, get on Zoom like this, share my screen, and I go through the proposal with them and encourage them. Like when we start to go through the proposal, my encouragement to them is, hey, look, if you see anything that you don't like or that you'd like to change, interrupt me, like stop me there, and so that we can get it right. Because I want to address any objections before because if you email them the proposal, if they see something that they don't like, what might happen is they can't talk to you. There's no dialogue. So they're like, oh, I don't really like this. So then it just becomes a negative decision, like proposal out, and they say no or something like that. Whereas if you're talking to them, and it really improves the process. If you're talking to them, if they say, hey, I don't like that, you can have a conversation. You can solve that problem right then, right? And then you move on. Like by the time you get to the end where the actual signature is and where the price is, they're usually on board, right? Because they've basically helped you create a proposal that's best for them and that they really like. So I think presenting the proposal rather than sending it is a really key aspect for, like I said, even agencies. Like even if you're an agency, if you have an account manager or, like for yourself, Gabriel, you could do it, yourself because you're the owner. And so you give your clients make them feel very important that they're working with the owner, which is great. Once that's finished, once I've presented the proposal, then I email it to them so that they can sign it and stuff like that. In the proposal is going to be, I have everything in the proposal. So there's a lot of places where you can get proposal templates. But the most important thing is just to ensure that you have very specific deliverables. This is what I'm going to do for you, and this is what you're going to get. Deadlines, dates, everything. Make sure that it's very thorough. And that's not, and when I first started freelancing, I thought that would feel off-putting to the client because they feel like you're trying to micromanage the process or something like that. But what I found is people actually like it because they like to know exactly how things are going to go and how it's going to work, right? So then once I've presented the proposal, I send it to them so that they can sign it and everything like that. Once they've signed the proposal, then I'll send a contract. And that might seem redundant, but just talking to a lawyer, from what I understand, I'm not a lawyer, so please don't take this as legal advice, but this is what I understand from lawyers. Proposals and contracts aren't the same thing. So I got a contract template and I used, and so once they sign the proposal, like, yes, I agree that this is what we're going to do. send the contract, which is basically the legally binding thing that says, yes, you're legally obligated to do the thing and or do the job, and this is the you know the conditions of the contract and what happens if one person doesn't fulfill it or anything like that. And then after that, once they've signed the contract, then I start work, and the project process is a little bit, is beyond the onboarding process. But for anybody who's starting freelancing, I think it's really important to have two things at least in your pocket before you start a project, which is get yourself a proposal template that you can modify based on the needs of the project, and some sort of contract template that you can use.
Wow, that's solid advice, man. That's something I wasn't implementing. I mean, the second video call, just explaining the proposal, that's huge, man. What we did is we actually create a landing page with all the proposals. So we send that with a password so they can enter from their phone. So we don't use the PDF things. We just do the full sales page with the proposal. That way we can track the numbers when they enter, if they see it, how much time they spend inside the website. That's great, but it's super insightful. We're going to start implementing that. We're going to start doing video calls like that and just walking through the proposal. That's huge. Thank you for that. That's a big piece of advice.
Yeah, like I said, it wasn't my idea. I got it from another copywriter on a podcast. Like I said, I'm sorry I can't remember their name right now. It's a great podcast though.
Awesome. All right, James. So where can people find you? You have a website, social media, if they want to work with you, if they need a copywriter specialized in MSAPS, cybersecurity, SaaS, where can they find you?
So as you might know, I'm always running around on LinkedIn. As far as social media, LinkedIn is probably where I'm most active. And James Miller on LinkedIn. And then my website is www.technicallycopy.com. Technically Copy is my business. Currently, I'm overhauling the website, so what's up there right now is a little bit sparse. But that's going to get upgraded here pretty soon. And then also, if you want to connect with me on Facebook, I have a Facebook page, Technically Copy, for my business, and I'm not a huge freelancer yet, so I still accept connections on Facebook through my personal page on James Miller.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time, James. We hope to see you soon. We can catch up in LinkedIn and hope we can talk later on in the year.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Gabriel, and look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Awesome, James. Have a great day, okay? Take care.
You too. Take care.
Bye-bye.